When does a father say no to his son? Let me tell you, the day that son calls his father useless. Because I'm Harold Mitchell, and I've spent 45 years in the construction business, earning every dollar with sweat and determination. And nobody, absolutely nobody, calls me useless. This story is about betrayal. Family bonds tested to their limits. And what happens when a man who built everything from nothing decides he's had enough? Before you judge my actions, walk in my shoes for the next 30 minutes. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Harold Mitchell, but everyone calls me Harry. I'm 75 years old and I live in Chicago, Illinois. I lost my wife Margaret 8 years ago, but I have my son Michael and his wife Sarah, plus 2 beautiful grandkids, 12-year-old Emma and 8-year-old Jake. For 45 years, I worked in construction. When I started in 1978, all I had was a shovel, a borrowed pickup truck, and dreams bigger than the Chicago skyline. I saved every penny, worked 16-hour days, and slowly built what became Mitchell Construction. By 2005, we were doing $3 million in annual revenue. Michael grew up differently than I did. Private schools, summer camps, Northwestern University for Business Administration. When he graduated in 2003, I was so proud. He joined Mitchell Construction and worked his way up to general manager. I was grooming him to take over everything someday. After Margaret's funeral, I threw myself into being the perfect father and grandfather. Michael was struggling with the mortgage on their beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in Naperville. The house cost $850,000, and even with his $120,000 salary, the payments were tight. So I did what any loving father would do. I co-signed the mortgage, $650,000 at 4.2% interest, monthly payments of $3,200. I also co-signed Sarah's SUV loan for $45,000, paid for Emma's piano lessons, Jake's soccer fees, their Disney vacation, $8,000. Every weekend I'd drive to their house in Naperville. Sarah would make dinner, and we'd sit around their table like a real family. I'd help with homework, listen to Emma practice piano, discuss business with Michael. It was perfect. Or so I thought. The signs were there, but I was too blind to see them. Sarah would sometimes seem irritated when I arrived. Michael would check his phone constantly during dinner. Last Christmas, when I brought expensive presents, a $3,000 Tag Heuer watch for Michael, he seemed more embarrassed than grateful. I should have known then that I was becoming a burden instead of a blessing. But love makes you blind, doesn't it? The call came on a Tuesday evening at exactly 7:30 p.m. Michael's voice sounded different, formal, like he was talking to a business associate rather than his father. "Dad, how are you?" "I'm good, son. Just watching the news. They're saying we might get snow this weekend. Maybe I'll come out and help Jake build a snowman." Silence. Then, "Dad, that's actually what I wanted to talk about. There's something important Sarah and I need to discuss with you." The knot in my stomach formed instantly. "What about, son?" "Dad, you're 75 now. You're living alone in that condo. Sarah and I are constantly worried about you." "What's there to worry about, Michael? I'm perfectly fine." "Dad, remember last week when you left the stove on? Mrs. Patterson called us because she smelled gas, and you forgot to lock your front door, got confused in that parking lot." Each example hit like a small blow. Yes, I'd had a couple of minor incidents, but these were normal for someone my age, weren't they? "Michael, those are very minor things." "Dad, listen to me. Sarah and I have been researching this for months. There's a wonderful senior care facility in Oak Brook called Sunset Manor. Private rooms, 24-hour nursing care, activities. You'd be much happier there. The words hit me like physical blows. Senior care facility. Nursing home. They'd been researching this for months without telling me. Michael, I'm happy in my own home. Dad, this isn't about what you want anymore. This is about what's safe. Sarah's mother went through the same thing with her father. I don't need medical care. My blood pressure is fine. Dad, it's not just about medical care. It's about us not having to worry every day that something terrible has happened to you. They'd been planning this behind my back for months. We've scheduled a tour for next Monday, Michael continued. The facility costs about $6,000 a month, but we'll handle that. We've already talked to Bob Thompson at the bank about automatic payments from your accounts. They'd talk to my banker, without me, about my money. Michael, I haven't agreed to any of this. Dad, we're not asking you to agree. We're telling you this is what's happening. This decision has been made. After he hung up, I sat staring at Margaret's photograph. Margaret, they want to put me away. Our son thinks I'm a burden. Harry, I'm so sorry to hear the news. What news, Dorothy? Michael came by last night asking for your spare key. He said you wouldn't be living here anymore, that you were moving to a care facility, and he needed to prepare the condo for sale. The words hit like ice water. They weren't just planning to warehouse me. They were planning to sell my home. After Dorothy left, I called building management. Maria, has my son been by recently? Oh yes, Mr. Mitchell. He spoke with us about putting your unit on the market. He said you'd be moving to assisted living and wanted to know about estate sales. My hands shook as I hung up. Michael had already begun implementing his plan. That afternoon, my friend George Wilson stopped by. Harry, I heard about the nursing home thing. Michael mentioned it at Murphy's bar last Friday. What exactly did he say, George? He was talking to Danny McLaughlin. Said he understood about difficult elderly relatives because you were becoming a real handful. He said, we can't handle my father anymore. He's getting forgetful and dangerous to himself. We're putting him in a nursing home whether he likes it or not. Each word was like a knife. He laughed, Harry, like it was funny. He said, these old people think they know what's best, but eventually he'll agree because he won't have any other choice. But there was more. Harry, Michael was talking about finances. He said nursing home care would preserve more the estate than having you live independently. Something about Medicaid planning and asset protection. My blood ran cold. This wasn't about my safety or well-being. This was about money, about preserving his inheritance. He said if you spent your money on yourself, living independently, hiring private care, there'd be less inheritance when the time came. But nursing home care could be structured so more assets remained protected for the family. After George left, I sat looking out at Lake Michigan. Everything I thought I knew about my son was crumbling. They weren't worried about my safety. They were worried about their inheritance. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat surrounded by photo albums, awards from the Chicago Construction Association, newspaper clippings from major projects. On the coffee table was Michael's wedding photo from 2005. I was beaming with pride, my hand on his shoulder. Now I wondered if it had all been calculation. I walked to my home office and opened the filing cabinet. Michael's mortgage papers, the co-signing agreement I'd signed so proudly. The mortgage balance was $650,000. I'd guaranteed every penny. There were other documents too. Sarah's SUV loan, $45,000. The business credit line, $75,000. The emergency credit card, $18,000. In total, I was financially responsible for over $785,000 of my son's debt. As dawn broke over Lake Michigan, I made my decision. If Michael thought his father was useless, let's see how useful he'd find me when all that financial backing disappeared. But this wouldn't be an emotional decision. I was a businessman. I'd built a company by thinking strategically and executing decisively. At 11 a.m., I sat in Bob Thompson's office at First National Bank. Bob and I had been friends for 20 years. "Harry, you look troubled. What's going on?" "Bob, I need to remove myself as co-signer from Michael's mortgage." Bob's expression shifted immediately. "Harry, that's very serious. When a co-signer removes themselves, the primary borrower has to qualify a loan. If they can't, the entire balance becomes immediately due." "I understand." "We're talking about $650,000. Can Michael qualify for that on his own income?" I thought about Michael's salary, $120,000 plus bonuses. Sarah made about $45,000. Combined income of maybe $185,000. With 2 kids in private school and their lifestyle expenses, they probably couldn't qualify for more than $400,000. "No, Bob, he can't." "Then the bank will demand immediate payment in full." "Harry, what's prompted this?" I told him everything. The nursing home plan, the conversations at Murphy's bar, the asset preservation strategy. Bob listened, his expression growing troubled. "Jesus, Harry. But removing yourself as co-signer, that's nuclear. Michael will lose the house. Maybe he should have thought about that before he decided I was disposable." You know, in all my years in banking, I've seen this scenario dozens of times. Adult children treating aging parents like incompetent children. Most elderly people don't have the financial leverage to fight back, but you do. "I want to do it, Bob. Remove me from everything. The mortgage, the SUV loan, the credit card, all of it." Bob pulled out a legal pad. "There's a 15-day notification period. That gives Michael time to qualify on his own or arrange alternative financing. If he can't, we'll begin foreclosure proceedings." The weight of what I was about to do settled on my shoulders. Michael would lose his house, his car, his financial security. Emma and Jake would have to change schools. But then I remembered Michael's laughter at Murphy's bar. His calculations about preserving the estate while warehousing me. "Do it, Bob." Thursday morning, I arrived at Mitchell Construction to find worried employees whispering in clusters. My assistant Patricia met me with concern in her eyes. "Mr. Mitchell, Michael came in Saturday with the key and accessed the financial files. He was here for 3 hours, copying documents." My blood boiled. "What files?" "Client contracts, billing records, employee information, everything." Michael was planning to start his own company and steal my clients and employees. It was corporate theft. "Patricia, change all the passwords and install new locks. I want our IT consultant to check what information was copied electronically." My phone rang. It was James Wilson, my attorney. "Harry, I got a disturbing call from Michael's attorney, Gerald Patterson from Patterson and Associates. He's claiming you're mentally incompetent and threatening to file for guardianship." The room spun around me. Michael was going to try to have me declared incompetent so he could control my finances and business. "James, can he do that?" "He can try, but he'd need medical evidence. The fact that you're functioning normally makes it difficult. But if he files guardianship papers, you'll be in a legal battle that could last months. What do? We establish your competency beyond doubt. I'm arranging for you to undergo a complete evaluation by the best neuropsychologist in Chicago. Around noon, my foreman Carlos Mendez knocked on my door. Mr. Mitchell, Michael approached me this weekend. He offered me a job with the new company. 20% more money plus bonuses. My heart sank. What did you tell him? I told him I needed to think about it, but sir, he said you were getting old, making bad decisions, that the company wasn't safe with you in charge anymore. Michael was systematically destroying my business and poisoning my relationships with employees. Carlos, what do you think? Mr. Mitchell, I think Michael is trying to use the business to hurt you. This company gave me a career, helped me buy my house. I'm not leaving. But over the next 2 days, I learned that 5 other employees had been approached. 2 accepted Michael's offers and gave their notice. Thursday evening brought the most heartbreaking development. I was heating leftover Chinese food when there was a soft knock at my door. Through the peephole, I saw Emma and Jake. Grandpa, can we talk to you? Emma asked in a small voice. Of course, sweetheart. But how did you get here? We took the train, Jake said proudly. Emma knew the way. My heart nearly stopped. 2 children, traveling alone because they were desperate to see their grandfather. I brought them inside and called Sarah, who answered frantically. Harry, do you have the kids? They disappeared from the library. They're here with me. They're safe. I sat with Emma and Jake on my sofa. Grandpa, why are Mom and Dad so upset? Why are they saying we might have to move? How do you explain betrayal to a 12-year-old? Emma, sometimes grown-ups disagree about important things. Your father and I are having one of those disagreements. Is it because of money? Jake asked. It's partly about money, Jake, but it's mostly about respect and trust. Emma looked at me with Margaret's green eyes. Grandpa, Dad said you don't want to be part of our family anymore. Is that true? The question broke my heart. Emma, I love you and Jake more than anything. This disagreement is between your father and me. But can't you just forgive him? Jake asked. Jake, imagine if your best friend made plans behind your back that would hurt you. And when you found out, instead of apologizing, they got angry at you. How would that make you feel? Madam, and sad. That's how I feel about your father. When Sarah arrived 30 minutes later, her face streaked with tears. I saw her clearly choose a side for the first time. Emma, I don't know everything that's happened between your father and grandfather, but I do know that if what Grandpa described is true, it's wrong. Very wrong. Monday morning, I called an all-hands meeting at Mitchell Construction. All 23 employees gathered in our conference room, faces showing worry and uncertainty. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you the facts about what's been happening. I spent 20 minutes explaining everything. Michael's nursing home plan, the mortgage removal, the data theft, the employee poaching, the planned guardianship petition. The room was silent. Then Carlos stood up. Mr. Mitchell, what do you need from us? I need your loyalty, Carlos. Not to me personally, but to the company we've built together. One by one, 19 employees stood up. Only 4 remained seated. 2 who'd accepted Michael's offers, and 2 others who looked scared. Patricia spoke for the group. Mr. Mitchell, we know who you are. We know your character, and we know your mind is sharp. We're with you. The conference room door opened. Michael walked in with two men I didn't recognize. "Dad, we need to talk. Now." 23 employees watched as father and son faced each other. "Michael, this is a private company meeting. You're not welcome here." "Actually, I am." He pulled out legal documents. "This is a restraining order preventing you from making major business decisions pending a competency hearing. And this is a petition for emergency guardianship." One man stepped forward. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm Gerald Patterson, Michael's attorney. You've been served with papers requiring you to appear in court Thursday morning." The other man introduced himself as Dr. Richard Novak, a psychiatrist retained to evaluate my mental state. "Mr. Mitchell, I need to ask you questions to assess your cognitive function." "Get out," I said quietly. "I beg your pardon?" "I said get out, all of you. This is private property and you're trespassing." "Dad, you can't ignore this." "The court ordered me to appear Thursday morning, which I will do. The court did not order me to submit to ambush evaluations in my conference room." After they left, Carlos spoke again. "Mr. Mitchell, what do you need us to do?" "Keep building buildings, Carlos. Don't let my family drama stop Mitchell Construction from being the best construction company in Chicago." Tuesday morning, I arrived at Northwestern Memorial Hospital for my appointment with Dr. Patricia Hoffman, one of Chicago's most respected neuropsychologists. "Mr. Mitchell, I understand you're facing family difficulties that require documentation of your mental capacity. My son is claiming I'm cognitively impaired and needs a legal guardian. I'm going to administer comprehensive tests that evaluate memory, reasoning, problem-solving, and general cognitive function. The entire evaluation will take about 4 hours. The tests were challenging. Memory exercises, problem-solving tasks, mathematical calculations, reading comprehension. But the most difficult part was the interview about my recent decisions. "Mr. Mitchell, can you tell me about the decision to remove yourself as co-signer from your son's mortgage?" I explained everything. The nursing home plan, the overheard conversations, the financial calculations about preserving inheritance. Dr. Hoffman listened without judgment. "From a psychological perspective, how would you characterize your emotional state?" "Hurt, angry, disappointed, but not confused or irrational. Every decision I've made has been calculated and deliberate." After 4 hours, Dr. Hoffman scored the results and called me back. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm happy to tell you that your cognitive function is excellent for your age. Your memory, reasoning ability, and problem-solving skills are all well within normal ranges. Your decision-making process shows clear logical reasoning and appropriate emotional responses." What does that mean legally? It means that in my professional opinion, you have full mental capacity to make your own decisions about your finances, your living situation, and your medical care. Whatever Michael's attorney planned to argue, they'd have to contend with a professional evaluation confirming my mental competency. Thursday morning, I dressed in my best suit and prepared to fight for my independence in Cook County Family Court. Judge Margaret O'Sullivan's courtroom had wood paneling and fluorescent lighting that gave everything a serious feel. Michael sat at the plaintiff's table with his attorney, while I sat with James Wilson. The irony wasn't lost on me. My own son was legally attacking me. Judge O'Sullivan reviewed the paperwork before speaking. "This is a petition for emergency guardianship filed by Michael Mitchell against his father, Harold Mitchell. Mr. Patterson, present your case." Gerald Patterson painted a picture of me as a confused, vindictive old man whose recent actions demonstrated mental impairment. He presented the mortgage removal as irrational financial decision-making. The company's security changes as paranoid behavior. Your Honor, Mr. Harold Mitchell lacks the capacity to make rational decisions. His son Michael requests guardianship not for personal gain, but to protect his father from his own impaired judgment. Then Michael took the witness stand, looking composed and sincere as he testified about his concerns for my welfare. He described the incidents with the stove and unlocked door, talked about my increasing isolation and suspicious behavior. What specific incidents led you to believe your father needed professional care? He's been forgetting to turn off appliances, leaving doors unlocked, getting confused in parking lots. But the real wake-up call was when he started making irrational financial decisions that could destroy the family's security. He removed himself as co-signer from my mortgage without warning, potentially causing my family to lose our home. He'd been acting paranoid and hostile toward family members who are only trying to help. When James Wilson cross-examined Michael, the facade began to crack. Mr. Michael Mitchell, did you discuss the nursing home plan with your father before making arrangements? We wanted to present him with a complete plan so he wouldn't worry about the details. So you made this decision without his input? We made it with his best interests in mind. Mr. Mitchell, who would manage the financial transactions if your father were declared incompetent? I would, as his guardian. So you would sell your father's home, liquidate his investments, and use the proceeds to pay for care he doesn't want in a facility he hasn't chosen? Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence of corporate data theft. James produced documents. These show that Michael Mitchell accessed and copied confidential business files without authorization. The hearing continued for 3 hours. Dr. Hoffman testified about my excellent cognitive evaluation. Carlos and Patricia testified about my continued business competence. Sarah, in a shocking move, testified about the guardianship document she'd found and Michael's threats. But the moment that changed everything came when Judge O'Sullivan asked me to testify. Mr. Harold Mitchell, I'd like to hear directly from you about these allegations. I stood up slowly, looking at the judge, then at Michael. Your Honor, I'm 75 years old. I've been married, raised a son, built a successful business, and lost the love of my life to cancer. I've made mistakes, learned from them, and tried to be a good father and grandfather. Recently, I discovered that my son was planning to put me in a nursing home against my will. Not because I needed care, but because it would be financially convenient. When I confronted this betrayal by removing my financial support, he responded by trying to steal my business and have me declared mentally incompetent. Your Honor, I may be 75, but I'm not senile, incompetent, or dangerous. What I am is a man who refuses to be manipulated by someone who should love me, but apparently sees me only as a source of money and a future burden. I don't need a guardian. I need a son who respects me enough to include me in decisions about my own life. Since that appears impossible, I'll settle for the legal system protecting my right to make my own choices. The courtroom was silent. Judge O'Sullivan reviewed her notes and studied the evidence. Finally, she spoke. After reviewing all evidence and testimony, I find that Harold Mitchell demonstrates full mental capacity and has the legal right to make his own decisions about his finances, his living situation, and his medical care. Furthermore, I find that the petition for guardianship appears motivated more by financial considerations than genuine concern for Mr. Mitchell's welfare. The petition is denied. Michael's face went white. Judge O'Sullivan continued, "Mr. Michael Mitchell, your father has the right to live his life as he chooses, spend his money as he sees fit, and make his own decisions about his care. Any further attempts to circumvent his autonomy will be viewed very seriously by this court." As we left the courtroom, Michael approached me. "Dad, please. Can we talk?" I looked at my son and saw a stranger. "Michael, when you're ready to apologize for trying to steal my freedom and my money, you know where to find me. Until then, we have nothing to discuss." The war was over. I had won. 6 months later, life has settled into a new normal. Mitchell Construction is thriving. The crisis actually strengthened our team's loyalty, and we've landed major contracts with clients who respected how I handled the situation. Michael's competing company lasted 3 months. Without the relationships he'd counted on stealing, he couldn't sustain it. He's working in Milwaukee now, after Sarah filed for divorce. 6 months later, life has settled into a new normal. Mitchell Construction is thriving. The crisis actually strengthened our team's loyalty, and we've landed major contracts with clients who respected how I handled the situation. Michael's competing company lasted 3 months. Without the relationships he'd counted on stealing, he couldn't sustain it. He's working in Milwaukee now, after Sarah filed for divorce. Sarah and the children moved to Evanston, closer to me. She's working full-time as an interior designer and has found strength she never knew she had. Emma and Jake spend every other weekend with me, and we've rebuilt our close relationship. Emma wants to study business to help Grandpa run the company someday. Jake spends hours in my workshop, learning to build things. Michael calls occasionally, usually when he's been drinking, alternating between justifying his actions and begging forgiveness. I listen, but don't engage. The man who tried to steal my freedom is no longer my son in any meaningful sense. I'm still living independently, still going to the office, still making my own decisions. The memory lapses Michael used to justify his actions haven't worsened. They were always just normal signs of aging. Most importantly, I've learned something crucial. Love without respect is meaningless. Support without gratitude becomes entitlement. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's worst impulses, even when that someone is your own child. Margaret's photo still sits on my nightstand. I think she'd be proud of how I handled this crisis. I finally learned her lesson. Not everyone deserves your generosity, and love must be earned, not assumed. The company I built will continue beyond my lifetime. The family I thought I'd lost has been rebuilt with people who choose to be part of my life rather than taking advantage of it. And I've learned that 75 years old isn't too late to stand up for yourself and demand respect. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't getting what you want. It's refusing to accept what you don't deserve. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took advantage of your generosity? How did you handle it? Remember, justice may be delayed, but it's never denied. And sometimes, teaching someone the consequences of their actions is the most loving thing you can do. Thank you for listening to Justice Chronicles, where truth prevails and dignity is never negotiable.